You're welcome along now to the Maroon and White pod. I'm delighted to be joined by Frankie Burke on this week's episode of the podcast. Frankie, is it safe to say that this is the year your club careers came to an end, or can people expect you to see you for Annaghdown for one more year?
No, no, no. It's safe to say it's all over, I'm afraid. I think, what has it been, 23 years? So I started out with the seniors in 2003, yeah, 16. And I remember when we came in first, we were after being in two county finals, won one in 01 and lost one in 02. And I said, lovely stuff. We'll be in finals every second year here. And it didn't work out like that, unfortunately. But like we had many great memories, made a lot of good friends. But no, I'm gonna call it a day now, in fairness, and hand it over to the younger lads and see what they can do with it.
Was it tough to bring it to an end, or was it always going to be this year for you?
No, it actually was very tough. I won't lie, because I suppose I've always put a lot of my identity into my football. Football's been had a football in my hand like countless others since I can remember. Like, I just love football. Um, so I suppose the last few years, especially as you get older and it's harder to perform, in the senior championship and at the senior level, sorry. And I was thinking it's harder to go when things aren't going well for you, and you don't want to go on a bad note, but also like it's not really, you don't get to decide either when you go. And I know last year we lost the quarter final to Tuam, and I didn't have a good game at all. And took me a while to get over that. And it's like, you can't go out in that. And as time went on, I started thinking, I give it one more year. I'm gonna put everything into it and be the fittest 39-year-old out there and see what happens. And I did as much as I could. And look, the year didn't go well for us at all. Um, Personally, I was happy enough for how I played, but I suppose when I came back, I thought I might be kind of the supporting act to Damo and Stephen and Hago and these lads. But with injuries and lads going away for the summer and stuff, I ended up probably playing a more central role than I had thought. And but I personally, as I said, I think it went well. We got Michael's in Tuam in a relegation battle, and I was happy with my own performance at that. But as a team, it didn't go the way we wanted at all. We were under the cosh from early in the year with injuries, and we'd lost a lot of players through immigration and stuff. And we probably had to kind of play a lot more younger players than we had hoped. And like they stepped up to the plate, and they did their job. But we just needed to get through that year and kind of survive. And sometimes you need to do that, and that's how it goes. And we did, and we're happy. When I'm sure they'll pick up the pieces, and they'll regroup and go again next year. We'll see how it goes.
H how do you sum up those 23 years?
Um, Good question. But I suppose, as I said earlier, when I started out first, down we're at the top of the tree, and I thought we're definitely going to be in county finals, and definitely thought I'd win one along the way. And as it came to the end, obviously, especially halfway through this year, I knew it wasn't going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Even at the start of this year, you're always telling yourself you're in with a chance. Sometimes you're probably deluded, and other times we were very, very close. So yeah, I suppose when you look back on it, you go, you can be successful and not win as well, if you know what I mean. We came close in 17 and 18, and probably came up against the best club team that ever played the game, and they beat us by a point in the 17 final, and probably beat us by two or three in 18, or sorry, semi-finals. And I like to think that, we could have gone all the way if we had gotten over those hurdles, but we didn't. Look, they knew how to win, and we didn't know how to win, and that's what it came down to. We knew how to get close, but in the end, we didn't know how to win those games. And I look back at things like that and take great pride from them, because I suppose you have to. Because look, very few people actually get to the top of the mountain and win trophies. And if we viewed everything else as failure, we'd always be chasing it. You know what I mean? We'd never be happy. So I take a bit of pride, I suppose, as well, in playing for this long and look back and think, not many people get to do it or are lucky enough. And, I avoided any major injuries. I had a few hamstring injuries, but yeah, no, I look back at it with a bit of pride, I suppose, that I've played for this long and, you know, made a lot of friends along the way. I've probably played with three or four different generations of players in Annaghdown. Like I'd say some of the lads I started off playing with are in their 60s now, and I'm playing with guys that are 17, 18. So, I take pride in things like that. And, you know.
Were you itching to get going at the start? Obviously, if you look at that Annaghdown team that I suppose won Frank Fox in 2001.
Yeah, I suppose I was because I wouldn't be shy. Like I remember we were under 16 training um one evening and we were down one half of the pitch and they were up the other half. I probably spent more time looking up at them than I did focusing on the drills that we were doing. And funny enough, during one of those training sessions, then I got a shout from the other end of the pitch to come up and join in the match. I think that was in 2000 and late 2002 or early to 03, and I was gone. I remember the under 16 manager shouting at me to come back, but I was gone. And, yeah, and oh, sorry. I think a lot, that team that won it in 01 and got the final in 02, they was a young team, but they broke up actually pretty quick after that. And by the time we were 18, 19, it was a lot of me and my peers that we were starting out then. We were kind of the team was kind of being built around our age group. So, it went from there then to we probably we didn't succeed or we didn't win a whole lot. We got knocked out in the first round a good few times. After that, it was knockout actually around in those days for 2 or 3 years. So you lose the first round, you were gone. So the championship was over in May. But the back door came in then around I think around 05 or 06. So gradually we started getting better then, and think it took us a while to kind of to get to the business end of the championships, but we got there in the end. We might have been a little slower than we had liked, but we got there.
Is it fair to say nearly for the first decade of your career, you probably flirted around the quarterfinal stage? There was a few quarterfinals where you were just getting bet. Do you maybe feel you were a bit inconsistent around that period?
No, it's definitely fair to say we were consistently getting to quarterfinals, but we were consistently losing them as well. Now we got to a couple of league finals as well. I think we've won three or four Division Two league finals, lost two or three Division One league finals. But yeah, no, we were consistently getting there, but consistently um losing them. I suppose in those days there wasn't a whole lot of reflection, at the end of the year as to what went wrong and what went well and stuff like that. It was just right, we didn't win or we got knocked out and you were gone. You came back about 6 months later and started the pre-season. But I remember playing Corofin in a league final in Headford, and there was a break in play or whatever. It was just up in front of the goal. David Morris was in goal, and they were playing. I think they were playing St Vincent's in an All Ireland semi final.
They
About two
went on
weeks
to
later,
win it that year, yeah, the
yeah,
Vitsar
I think was
final,
it
yeah.
15, and I said to him, I don't know why I said this, but I said, "Do you know much about them, Dave?" And I'll never forget what he said. He actually looked up and he said, "Frankie, we know everything about them." And when he said that, I realized we don't know what we don't know here. We're nowhere near the level of these fellas. And if we ever want to win anything, we have to, do a lot of things differently. But I always remember that. I remember these fellas are operating on a different level. And, it was after that, in the year after we started getting very, very serious after that. And a lot of young players coming through. I think we got them in the semi final or 2 years after that and ran them very close. In the last kick of the game, they bet us. But yeah, no, we were inconsistent, but I think we were naive for a long time. We were we had talented players, but I don't think we were how to put it. We probably weren't as smart as we should have been, maybe in our preparation or in our kind of reflecting after games or whatever. But look, most teams weren't back then. It was probably just Corofin, and that's why they probably went on. They were winning. seven, eight, nine in a row. So I don't think we're any different to anyone else. But
When Alan Flynn comes in, obviously as part of the management team, and you get to those, I suppose, two semi-finals in 17 and 18. Is that when you feel, is that when things start to change in the club?
yeah, well, they definitely did because we definitely went up a level, like in terms of you know, getting to semi-finals and getting really close to finals. We also though we I think timing is everything as well. You know, we had a really good minor team that probably came through about 2 years before that, you know, and it was just we got a lot off that. You know, usually you might only get one, two, three off a minor team, but we got a lot of players, and we probably had a lot of players in that were hitting 28, 29 into their prime, you know what I mean? I think Niall Coleman kind of retired from county football as well around that time. So he was with us all the time. We probably hadn't had him in 12 years before that, really, only for championship. And also, you know, we get a generational player like Damo as well, who, you know, just he takes so much focus from opposition players that are freed up, even for the likes of myself, probably often be back in the day would be double marked or whatever. But when Damo came in, like he would take two the best defenders on the opposition just to kind of watch them. So it would free up, and then my scoring went, you know, to another level because of that, you know, just that extra threat. So there was loads of different factors, but definitely we started getting kind of serious with strength and conditioning as well, you know, and we were really tough team. You know, we'd own Kearns, Joe Kearns, Ryan Ford, like really hard tacklers at the back. You know, and as I said, Niall Coleman, absolute warrior there midfield, and Damo, as I said, a generational player, and both like with the ball, but physically as well, just could do things that would change a game. So there was loads of little things that came in when Alan came in. He brought in Neil O'Toole with him, strength and conditioning. Um, Brian Roach in latter years. We got really serious in the gym. I think that's one thing that the likes of Alan or anyone that came in after him, Kieran Murphy, even Norman now would say that like you know, we're a really good team. We were a really good team just to work hard, and it got us very close, but didn't get us over the line, unfortunately.
Is 17 the year that hurts most? Because if you look back to that Kerfin semi-final, you were three up at one stage. They clawed it back. I remember Justin Burke coming on and just getting them over the line. Is that the game that hurts the most?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, yeah. Like I really believe we would have won the county championship that year. I think we were three up. There might have been 4 minutes to go. Like you're winning most games, especially back then. You know, there was no two pointers, and they were so calm. You know, they had won an All Ireland, I think, in 15. Like, and the closer it got to the final whistle, I think we just panicked a little bit. We didn't know how to see it out, or we didn't know how to kind of play in with the ball. I think once they got the first point of the last four, like we just couldn't get out of our own half, you know, and we didn't know the dark arts, and it definitely hurts the most because we were flying that year. I don't think we lost a game all year. I think that was the first game we lost. We won the league handy, and yeah, we had won all our championship games. And like Mount Bellew, a really good team that same year, but we had beaten them in the group stage, and they ended up getting to the other final. Now, look at we never know what would have happened, but like I just believe that we would have got over the line that year. Like we were on a roll, but we came up against a serious team. Like they walked the All Ireland 3 years in a row. I think that was the
Mm.
first year, and they they managed to claw us back, and I don't think they lost a game then again for 3 years.
Does that game eat you up much? Do you think about it much?
No, I probably did at the start, but not anymore. No,
Yeah.
you couldn't let those things eat you up. There's way more things going on in life that are more important than that, you know. Um, so no, it wouldn't eat me up, but I couldn't. You can't bring it up either. You know, as much as I see it as a kind of an achievement, I really look back fondly on that year, and we achieved an awful lot. But you can't bring it up either. At the end of the day, we lost, so
Yeah.
you know we're getting slagged in the pub or whatever. But the boys from '01 or even the lads back in the '80s, we don't. we don't really have much, to pull out of the armory, defend ourselves. But no, it doesn't. No, no.
The following year, then uh, uh, 18 when I look at it, you probably didn't run them as close the following year. Was it maybe on your mind the following year to, I suppose, did you focus on them too much, or what do you think happened the following year?
I think the following year, um, they probably the element of surprise was probably gone
Hmm.
from their point of view. They weren't, no one was expecting us to do anything in 17. 16, we were in relegation. We had to beat Lettermore back in Spiddle. So we came out of nowhere. Um, so yeah, we had an element of surprise in 17. Now 18 again, we were, I think we probably would have been in the top two or three again, but no, I think they knew what to expect the next year, and they had us at arm's length all day that day in Tuam. So I put it down to that. Like, again, like they're probably the best team that the best club team of all time. So like at the end of the day, they had top class footballers in every position, and they were in their prime. So there's no shame in losing to them. There's no shame in being second best to them. But I can't remember anything stand out anyway that kind of that we did that probably I'd regret or that we should have done differently.
Yeah. A few years later, you obviously run Montpellier Law to extra time in Tuam Stadium, and then 22 Sawtill knocked the carry. You're winning in the semi-final, and Sawtill finished strongly. There were obviously opportunities there too after that.
Oh, 100%. I remember the Salt Hill one especially because um we were winning at half time, as you said, and like probably in the dressing room we felt like we had no, even though the team was probably a little different, but personally had felt like we had learned a lot from the other two semi-final defeats. So all the right things were said in the dressing room and we went out with the right intentions. But I think Salt Hill, I think Carl Sweeney got a goal. He ran from probably definitely his own half. Um, and that was the difference because it was a windy day, and goals they don't come easy in semi-finals, and it was that did turn the tide, and once we were chasing, then it was a different ball game. I remember they definitely had their homework done that day. They had myself and Damo well covered. Like they they said a lot back when any attack that broke down or turnover that we got. All I can remember is Salt Hill jerseys flying back to stand in front of us. Um, so they
That
had their
was
homework done, but
yeah.
yeah,
That
it was a
was
low scoring game, that one, and
yeah.
you know you
That
as
was
we
some way
said.
how he ended up in the semi-final because they bet you well in the group, and then
Mm,
obviously he bet
oh,
Berna that year out in Ballinasloe, and
yeah,
I'd never seen anything like it.
yeah, that was unreal. I think we got off to a slow start that year. Yeah, they had been as handy in the group, and remember it was a really sunny day down in Tuam, and I forget the other two group games. I forget the results, but it was Barna won. We had to beat Barna
Yeah,
by 14 points in Ballinasloe in a hurricane, and we remember we were 18 up at half time. I was raging when the referee blew the halftime whistle because we were just on it, and they clawed it back into 12, and we got a penalty, and I missed the penalty and the rebound. But I think we managed just 5 or 10 minutes to go. We managed to clip over a few points. Remember, I had a free. James Healy got a free from out the 45 as well, just to put us back 14
yeah.
points up. But that was unreal. Yeah, it was the celebration in the dressing room after that when you have to go to Ballinasloe on a Wednesday night and win by 14, and you get it done. And like going back to your question earlier, when you talk about things you look back on fondly, like there's things like that, you know what I mean? That's an achievement. It might be a small achievement, but they're the things you kind of remember, um, because when you don't manage to win many championships or any championships, you have to look back on things like that and cherish them.
Is not getting the experience of county final then in Frank Fox medal, is is that a regret, or How do you feel about it?
Oh, it's 100% sure. It's not a regret. It's more of a disappointment. Um, it's not a regret because I tried hard to do it. So, I did my best. Or and every team I played on, every time we went out, we did our best to win the match. So, but it's disappointing, I suppose, especially because in 2001 I was 15 and I celebrated harder than I'd say half the players in the team. I was in Regan's for 2 or 3 days. I was only, I don't know, I was in fourth year in Jarlath's, and I don't think I went in till Thursday. But experiencing that, that experience, I wanted that for myself after I experienced that. I was like, I want this. And that's what I was chasing for 23 years and loads more like my lads my age, like Anthony Pender, Brendan Dooley, even Niall Coleman. I know Niall Coleman played the next year on the team that were beaten in the county final, but that's what drove us on for Fergal Doherty, actually another stalwart. Like that drove us on for years trying to emulate that and create that again and bring that back to the parish because we grew up listening to stories about the boys in the 80s. I think they were in 4 or 5 county finals. They won 3 of them, and 10, 12 years later, we'd all won. And that those things, they're in your head all the time. And look, we didn't get it done, but I've no doubt we'll win another one in the not too distant future.
Do you feel like maybe some of the league titles you actually won are big when you look at it? Because even if you look since 2012, I was only having this conversation a couple of weeks ago on the podcast. Since 2012, there's only been four different winners of the Galway Championship.
Hmm.
So it does show you that not that many teams have won a Galway Championship in the last decade. So maybe some of those medals that you have actually mean a lot.
Oh, definitely, yeah, because I don't think we've ever won a Division One, and we won. I played last 3 of those finals. Have won 4 or 5 Division Twos, but like that's senior level as well. You know what I mean? Like in any given year, like Division One, Division Two, there wasn't a whole lot between them. Teams going up and down all the time. So yeah, and any medal is hard to come by, and it's like you have to win 8 games. Well, you don't have to win 8 games, but like a league is 8 games and a semi-final and a final. Like that's 10 games or whatever. So yeah, no, it's really hard to win leagues. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, I definitely cherish those, and that's why even my brother is involved in the committee, and he's there recently, kind of gathering photographs from teams that won different things, like going back to the 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever. And he came home there one evening and he was showing me all the league winning teams, and there was only 5 of them. There was one in the 80s and the 4 that we played on. So like they're rare enough too. So yeah, no, they are special, you know.
How do you feel like when you're talking about one of the greatest club footballers to play the game in Galway?
Say again, sorry.
How do you feel when you're talking about one of the greatest club footballers to play the game in Galway?
Oh my God. Well, gee, I've never heard that. That's for sure. Um, I don't know. I don't know how many. I don't know if many people would think that, but I suppose if they did, yeah, I suppose it's probably nice to think that people appreciate, the effort that you put in, that you train 3 or 4 times a week for however many years to get better and improve your skills or whatever. Um, I don't know. I suppose I wouldn't put a whole lot of thought into it. Like I
Mm.
love playing football, and that's what brings me happiness. Do you know what I mean? There's plenty of people out there that probably think I'm useless at the same time. So I suppose you don't put too much thought into either of them.
How did you feel throughout your career taking on that responsibility of being that main man, being that scoring threat every day you went out?
It never bothered me, honestly, because um, well, for different reasons. I I always backed myself, That's first and foremost. I'd always back myself. I never worried about who was marking or who was playing or what level the match was. Um, Probably did a little bit later on. We'll come back to that. But throughout for most of my career, it never bothered me. Well, I just loved playing football and really believed in myself. You know, how do we put it? I suppose probably I remember Troy Parrott actually said this after the Hungary match we took the pen off. I'd probably rather that, whether it be a penalty or a free or wanting the ball on a at the last minute to level the match, but I'd rather it be me than anyone else because then I'd have control of it. You know what I mean? That's probably the way I think. That's it. So you wouldn't have time to be thinking about it too much or to be nervous about it because, the job has to be done. So I'd rather I do it than anyone else. Um, I suppose in the last few years, as I said, nerves were never a thing for me, but maybe in the last few years, as you get older and the body is definitely not able to do the things it was, probably little bits of nerves will creep in because you're going like you don't want to be showing up or you don't want to be not able to do the things that you used to be able to do. But when the ball was thrown in, like, honestly, I know you've probably heard this before. When the ball is thrown in, like the nerves are gone, or there's no such thing. You enjoy it, and at the business end, there's a job to be done, and you have to do it.
When Damien comes along, you obviously build quite a strong relationship. In one sense, when he comes along for Annaghdown, he sort of bursts out of the scene out of nowhere,
Hmm.
backed on that 21 success. But when do you start to realise that there's a relationship there and you're both building something special together inside?
Um, I suppose when he came in first, he was probably using him as we had him probably midfield for maybe the first season. He might have been out around the middle a lot or on the wing a lot. Um, I don't know, was there ever a moment? I suppose playing with him, he just causes chaos. So I suppose I learned pretty quickly when this fella's around me, chances will come my way because people are so preoccupied with him. And sure, he probably doesn't know what he's going to do half the time himself because half the time the ball is just lurried into him and there's no preconceived kind of move or tactic. Do you know what I mean? It's just he's like a bull in a china shop, and if he doesn't do something with the ball generally kind of, if I hang around here long enough, it'll come my way, and I don't know, I'll pick off scores because of it. And I suppose that's the way it was at the start. But I suppose as he kind of got more experience and he was in with Galway much more, he obviously kind of he became more refined, and obviously we all get probably a bit more kind of more experience kind of bringing other people into the game. And he started becoming more as much of a leader, I suppose, then, even though he was young, as some of the older heads in the team. And he definitely would see himself as a playmaker just as much as he would have as a threat himself. And I suppose where at the start you kind of probably the chaos, the breaking ball, you kind of hang around. You knew then as the years went on that this fella actually will bring you into the game, and he'll bring the ball into areas that he's doing it for you rather than for himself. And defenders would be so preoccupied with him if, he's really selfless, like, you know what I mean? He's very good at kind of at bringing others into the game now because he knows himself that he can drag defenders with him. And if they take their eye off him, he'll have a pop himself. But if they're really really focused on him, he's really good at slipping you into the game and creating chances for all the other forwards. So I suppose as he got older, we probably became a better duo. I think in 17, then I would have been 32. Damien probably was maybe 25 or 24, and he had a few years in with Galway, and he was really on top of his game that time. I think that's when it really started to click.
It must have been a special year for the club when yourself, himself, Owen Kern, and Kieran Duggan all were in Magoa that year.
Yeah, it was. It was. I don't know if we ever had
Yeah.
four people in the panel at the same time. And winning Connacht that year as well. Um, I don't think I got on the pitch that day. I was due to come on, and there was an injury or something, and it got Kevin had to. mix it up or switch it up, and I had to sit back down. Would have been nice if the four of us were on the pitch for the end, against Roscommon down the Hyde, but still, it was nice for the four of us to be on the panel that day, and especially because the three boys played such key roles. Like, Owen was flying that time; he was known all over, I suppose, Ireland as a bit of an enforcer, and Kieran like burst onto the scene. I think Kieran would have been probably 26 or 7 that time, and he just came out of nowhere, and people were raving about him. He was man of the match against Mayo in the first round in McHale Park. But yeah, I actually have a picture there, somewhere of the four of us on the pitch with the cup, and it's definitely one of my favorite memories, yeah, for sure. Um, and hopefully we'll see it in the future, but for now, I think it's the only time.
How often were you called into the Galway panel?
Oh, maybe 3 times, I suppose. I think I first played in the FBD final in 2006. Yeah, it was 2006. So we bet Mayo, and I was only on under 21s that time, but I think they were short. A lot of injuries or whatever, a lot of lads coming back onto the panel. So they called a few of us up for the FBD, and we managed to win it. We bet Mayo, as I said, and Mayo had just lost. I think they lost the 2005 All Ireland to Kerry, I think it was, and continued on. Then was on the panel in 2007, but that year was a bit of a disaster in the sense we lost to Sligo in Hyde Park, and don't think Galway had lost to Sligo since the 60s.
Hmm.
So by the end of that year, there was a clean sweep done, and fortunately, I was, even though I was only starting out on my Galway career, there was an overhaul for 2008, and I got called in a few times after that for trials, but never made the cut. I was down in college then, playing for Athlone for a few years, and then on the back of 2017, I remember Kevin rang and asked me if I wanted to join the panel for 2018, and I said yes straight away. I suppose because I suppose I always dreamed of playing for Galway, and there's lots of things that I hadn't done and wanted to do, like playing Crow Park or play in the Connacht Championship, and I got to do all those things. And even though I was only there for maybe a year and a half, it's probably one of my proudest times as a footballer for sure.
Were you surprised that the call didn't come after that when you got the cut that it took until Kevin Walsh to call?
Was it a surprise that I didn't get the call before that? Is it?
Well, after that it took you so long to get back in, did you feel maybe
Oh, no. Like, county football is a serious level, and Galway, like, I don't think a lot of people don't realise there's serious footballers in Galway in those times, and probably underachieved in a sense. Like, we had won All Ireland under 21s in '02, I think, and in 2005, like, and that 2005 team, between 2005, like, them boys were serious footballers. Um, and the Galway team probably should have been built around them for 10 or 12 years, and for whatever reason, it wasn't. But Galway still they had won in All Ireland as well, I think in '08. I think it might have been Paul Conroy's vintage, Danny Cummins, a few of them. So like there was just really, really good footballers in Galway. So no, I wasn't really, no, I didn't put too much thought into it. My first and foremost concentration was on playing for Annaghdown, and that's what I always wanted to do, and that's what I was occupied or preoccupied with doing. So anytime I did get called in for a trial, I showed up and did my best, but didn't put too much thought into it if the phone call didn't come after that.
it must
Say
have
this.
been
So
it
as
mu
I said, like when he come in 18, um, I made sure that I was going to
yeah.
be, you know, as well prepared as I could, and I wouldn't be regretting anything when it did come to an end, and I'm happy that I didn't.
I know you said it was only a year and a half, but it must have been sort of, I suppose, nice in that way to get that county football experience and I suppose nearly get to close the door on county football within that period of time.
Oh, 100%. Especially because I suppose we hadn't Galway hadn't they had been in the doldrums for a good while before that. No, they had won the kind of title, I think, a year or two before that, but like around between '08 and maybe 2015 or 16, there was a lot of bad days for Galway, like we were getting bet by Wexford and Westmeath and Antrim and all in separate years, and um, not winning in Croke Park for like 20 years, like, because, like a lot of people of my era, like we grew up watching Galway win 98, getting to finals in 2000 and winning 2001, and Jarlath were winning All Irelands all around them that time and winning under 21 All Irelands. And we were used to Galway winning. So in that decade there where we were in the doldrums, there there seemed like no way out. So when Kevin took over, he brought a lot of stability to Galway and probably went back to basics. And he probably had to in order to rebuild. And we ended up beating Kerry in the first ever Super 8s game in
Mm.
Croke Park. So we hadn't beaten Kerry in I don't know how many years, and we hadn't won in Croke Park. So we like um there was a lot of things accomplished, in that year, and I think it led to a lot of the success then that Porrick has probably brought to the team since he's come in. He's added to what Kevin built. Um, and I think it needed to be like that for a while. So no, yeah, like as I said personally, like I got to play in Pear Stadium for Galway. I got to, come on. I came on in Croke Park, I think, against Kerry in that Super 8, and I thought I was never going to get the chance to line out in Croke Park. So when it came, I was like 32 or 33. Just they were nice little moments personally, but um, they were just small things in the greater scheme of things. But yeah, no, I'll always remember them.
You mentioned obviously earlier on, um, difficult year for the club this year. Obviously, only
Mm.
getting over Michaels in the relegation semi-final. Just to name some of the players you've lost over the last few years: Owen Kern, Kieran Duggan, Kieran Potter, Sean Ford, Ryan Ford, Conor Maloney. Obviously, lost to Coleman's to retirement. Anthony
Mm.
Pender, to retirement, and
Joe
there's
Kearns,
Joe Kern as
the
well.
Bones
Yeah,
twin, yeah.
you could never predict that you're going to lose that many players all within nearly a year or two.
No, no, like I'd say we lost between immigration and injuries this year, probably lost maybe, geez, about 16, 17, 18 players, and not many clubs can actually survive that. But I don't know if a lot of people, we have a big population out of town. We're right outside Galway City. So all of our youth live here. They're all in college in Galway, and most of them are living in the parish. And even if they're in Galway, it's only 10 minutes away. So, like, even losing all them, we still have 35 training every night. And we're very lucky because I talk to other people from other clubs around Galway, and they'd only love that. We'd have subs at training, like, so we can't cry too much. We did lose lads in their prime. We lost maybe 10 to immigration that like probably would start on the team if they were here today. And then the injuries compounded that. Then you had Stephen Curley and Damien getting injured, and as I said, I probably came back. I was hoping to be kind of complimentary to those lads this year, and we lost Damo through injury, obviously, and then Stephen broke his foot in the first round, and I probably had to play more of a central role than I had hoped, or took on more kind of the onus of getting a lot of the scores. And we lost the Darren McAndrew as well. I think he left him out through he did his cruciate in the warm up 2 weeks before the championship. So yeah, we're fighting fires all over the place last year. I think it's a credit to the group and the management team um, that we were able to survive because I think a lot of clubs could have gone down. Now we are lucky that we have a big population. We can replace these lads, but sometimes we ended up replacing lads this year with guys that were only out of school, you know what I mean? And they're only learning their trade. And fair play to them, they stepped up to the mark and they got the job done in the end. And sometimes you just have to do that. But they'll learn from that and they'll grow from those experiences this year. And even though I'm gone, we're probably gaining five lads that got experience this year that maybe hadn't thought they would, or there was no plans for them to do so. So I think that'll only bring Annaghdown on, this in next year. So yeah, no, we were hit really hard with. I think COVID actually was a big thing. We just had a big cohort of players who were probably 22 or 3 during COVID. and they probably would have naturally staggered their 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 trips away or their planned few years away. But because of COVID, then I think it just all came at once. As soon as kind of that all kind of settled down, 10 of them went in one go, and we were we were fighting fires, as I said, for a while. But that's life, and every club has to deal with it at some stage, and we dealt with it, and hopefully now that's as low as it goes, and that we start going on an upward trajectory from next year.
Where do you feel you are as a club now?
As a club, we're like, I don't know if many people know this either. We're a dual club, and I don't know if there are many dual clubs in Galway. Like, there's a lot of parishes that have hurling and football, but they aren't a dual club. Like, let's say Annaghdown and Monivea are separate clubs, and I think my Cullen are separate clubs, Ceylon, Corofin, but we're a dual club. So like, we do have, we have a lot of people to cater for, but we have a lot of kind of obstacles. We won't say obstacles, but things that we have to take into account to be successful at both of them. You know what I mean? Generally, you might have maybe 9 or 10 players that are playing both, and the championships are at the same time of the year. You know what I mean? So it's very, very difficult to kind of get that balance right. So sometimes we'll say when results aren't going well, it isn't a reflection on how well the club is going. The club is really, really strong. Um, we've had our ladies are, as you're aware, are flying it, like, and we've had a formation of a camogie team, our camogie club, recently as well. So the club is grown. We're trying to add to our facilities. We have 2 pitches at the moment. I think there's plans in place now to bring that up to 5. We just upgraded our floodlights, um, as I know you're aware of. We launched them there last week, but I think the weather had other ideas. But no, as a club, we're really strong. We have a big population. We have a big membership. We have a really, really kind of progressive committee. Um, and although results weren't great last year in either code, that's not going to be the case. I'm sure going forward, we'll always bounce back, and we'll always be challenging that, and I firmly believe that. So,
When you look at the last 2 years, Frankie, in the senior championship, it's been Corofin, Mike Cullen, South Cara and Toom Stairs in the county semi-finals the last 2 years in a row. Myself and Sean O'Donnell were chatting throughout the club championship this year about the potential maybe to bring in divisional teams into the Galway championship.
mm.
Do you think that's something that could work?
um, Look, I suppose it works in Kerry, so I don't see why it couldn't work in Galway. The only way it wouldn't work is if the clubs or the people involved didn't want it to work. I don't think you're ever going to get 100% buy-in um, in any walk of life or anything. There's always going to be pushback, or there's always going to be people that have a different opinion. Um, so I suppose if you look at it from players' point of view, they'd never get to play senior football, and there's
Yeah.
brilliant players all over the country that are probably playing for clubs that will never, see the big day at senior level. So from that perspective, I would see it as a positive. Like, if the players wanted to do it, um, I have no doubt that people would roll behind it and support it. But if the clubs in question are not interested in it as a whole, I don't think it'll ever get off the ground. But maybe sometimes, if you look at it, the bigger picture, and you're looking down the road and you're thinking, are there clubs, isolated clubs, or clubs in really rural areas that are under threat, um, and that are really struggling at underage level, and they want to keep their players playing and keep their players interested? It might be something that has to be looked at, and you're giving those players kind of something to aim for into the future when they progress up through the levels, because the last thing you want is to be kind of diehard about something and putting kind of um
Because
local
it does,
local
yeah.
rivalries kind of in front of, or ahead of, development or the retention of young players. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
the most important thing, I think, in the GA or in any club is the youth and what's coming and the future. So I think that that always has to be looked at, and that always has to be number one.
Yeah, the point we were even referencing is obviously it gives every junior and intermediate player a chance to play at senior football, but as well, I think maybe now you can say it's since you're finished, but it is harder for the next few years for a club to come out of nowhere and win a Frank Fox.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Like we see demographics and the GA are talking a lot about demographics the last few weeks and from kind of as we're talking about there like clubs in really rural parts of the country finding it hard to field teams. But on the other hand, I think I read a stat today, geez, I'm probably going to forget it now, but um is it like 50 clubs in Ireland have, oh, I forget, like, is it 25% of the under fives or something like that? I think it's 25% of all under fives in the country are playing for 50 only 50 clubs. So what
Mm.
you're seeing it in Galway here, you're seeing areas like Moycullen and Oranmore and Clare Galway, and even in the city clubs, they're just obviously the population is booming, and these clubs are they're reaping the rewards of that because of geography, like, and where they're situated geographically. So yeah, look, if they get their houses in order, it's gonna be very hard to compete with them, you know what I mean? Because like the numbers are the more players you have, the more chance you have you're gonna have the best athletes. But like it's kind of we're kind of in the middle, I suppose teams like place like Corofin as well, you're kind of at tune. We're kind of in between both. But like Corofin have been doing it for years. They've been a rural club, and I know they're a big area geographically, but it's never bothered them. And I think there's no point. There's no point dwelling on it. Like Oranmore is growing and is only going to grow. Claregalway is growing; it's only going to grow. So if you dwell on that, you're kind of you're not putting your energy into the right place. You have to focus on what you have and uh, and work with it because there's always ways around. Trust there's always ways of succeeding.
Was there much mind in the body then towards the end of the career?
Yeah, well, I suppose I always minded the body. I was always interested in gym work and strength and conditioning, and just luckily I remember Martin O'Neill and my cousin Damien Burke back in '03 when I did start playing for Annaghdown, pulled up in the car and said, "Right, come on, we're off to the gym," and that was the start of it. And um, it's by the end of it, I suppose there was less lifting and there was more kind of core stuff and more, or definitely more kind of emphasis put on warm-ups and activation and stuff like that. And you kind of, I know it's actually cliche, but you have to listen to your body as well. I know when I was by the end of the Galway thing there in 2018, like body was kind of breaking down. I was like, I know I was only new to Japan, I was 33 or 30, 34. I'm 33, I think. And I think it was just taking its toll, and we could be playing training in the middle of summer in Pear Stadium, might be 26 degrees, and I'd be freezing cold because the body was just, I couldn't take any more. Like it was kind of, I suppose, probably too much load on over a short period of time. So you kind of have to listen to your body, and if you're not feeling it, and if you can't do the gym session, you just sit out that day and you do more in your activation and stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, you have to. If it doesn't matter how much you do in the gym, you got to be on the pitch when you're needed. You know what I mean? So,
When you look at the end of your career, there's obviously certain people around your own age, like I look at you, Jamie Murphy in Trimstairs, Carl
mm,
Blake in Milltown, players going into their latter ages, which you don't see all players do. It was obviously a massive enjoyment. You still got every year
mm,
you came back, but it's obviously you prefer football. You see people doing high roxes, marathons, football. Like you even see Johnny Doyle in Kildare. Football was obviously
yeah,
enjoyable
well,
as ever.
yeah, I don't know how he does it. Yeah, football, I suppose, it was great because obviously when you're playing the football, you're hitting all your markers in terms of your fit as a fiddle. You're doing what you love. You're not even thinking about it. Um, So yeah, going forward, I don't know how I'm going to replace it in terms of. I actually went for a run this morning in the rain, and I loved that. But I always say I have said to myself a few times. I thought about it a lot over the last few years, and I suppose whatever I do to replace it from a fitness side of things, I'd love to kind of do something that is more individual or like a bit of boxing or something like that, or just going for runs or swimming maybe on my own. I think in terms of the team stuff, I'm kind of the tank is empty from that side of things. So whatever I do, I'm probably going to spend a lot more time with myself doing it and just I think by the end of it, I remember going up training there up to Craig and up the long drive to the pitch after work, and it felt like it felt like you were going in. You were joining the army, like you were going in doing army training after work. It was just like mentally it was really tiring, you know what I mean? And having to do things on someone else's kind of timeline. Or it was all geared around the team. It wasn't aimed at me or anything like that. But um yeah, that got really hard at the end, living off someone else's time frame and having to be here and having to be there, and they're the things you have to do, but um they're the things I won't miss. I like to do things now in my own time and when I want and when I feel like I can.
I had Jamie Murphy on the podcast last week, and I was asking him the same question. So I'll have to ask you now. Will you see Frankie Burke on the sidelines, or um, does coaching interest you?
Um, I suppose it does. I've coached the Annaghdown under 21s way back when I ended up playing with them. Half them are probably retired at this stage, but yeah, some days it does and some days it doesn't. No, but I definitely will give back to the club. Um, I don't know what I'm going to do this year going forward. If I'll take the year out and just try and enjoy work and take a few holidays. But yeah, I probably will in the future. Yeah, yeah. Like I tried to retire about 4 times, and by New Year or by St. Stephen's Day, I was going back. So I'm never going to say never, because I know for sure by New Year's Day I'll be mad for it again, and I want to get involved with the club. It's in some form, but it won't be playing, that's for sure.
Did the new rules was that one reason to go back then this year for you?
Um, I suppose I didn't put too much thought into them, but they probably did work to my advantage, because obviously I was not going to be one that had to go back over the halfway line. So, because if you go like last year, we played Tuam in the quarter final, and I was marking Rory O'Connor, and sure, he was gone every time there was a turnover or any opportunity. He was gone. It was clear that he was targeting 38-year-old corner forward. So this year there was none of that. So yeah, that was definitely one. I didn't put too much thought into it, but it's definitely one that did go in my favor. And I do like an old shot as well. So the 2 pointers, I love them. They bring great jeopardy to the game, I think, I know if you look at the Munster final there yesterday and you see Dingle winning it with the last kick of the game being a point down. Now, I disagree with how they got there or how the refereeing decision, but the 2 pointers definitely brought great jeopardy. And like they can things like there might be clubs that they might be low on numbers, or they might traditionally not have been challenging for things, but they might have one or two forwards that are really, really good at 2 pointers, and it can bring, it can get into places they probably hadn't expected to be in. So they're definitely a skill that you're going to see the teams are going to be working on now over the next number of years. And I think you're going to see a lot more of them and a lot better use of when to go for them and when not to go for them. But I
With
think the rules have been pretty positive. I was skeptical of a lot of them, I won't lie, but I have been happily kind of proved proved wrong for the majority of them. They've been really, really positive and really enjoyable actually, because look, I know Annaghdown supporters, were really getting on our backs in the last 5, 6 years about going sideways a lot. And that was just the way the game was going because it wasn't that we wanted to play like that, but that's the way defenses were setting up. And these new rules, we've seen the scoring ratios, like we, especially at county level, like they're hitting 26 points and losing matches. So, um, yeah, they've been really positive and long may it last. No harm getting defenders to have to defend again either, I think.
Did that hurt? Just that point you mentioned there of Annaghdown supporters getting on your back for going sideways.
No. But it was probably just annoying having to explain to them why. And like we never went out to, I suppose we did get into a rut. There was a couple of seasons of we were playing very sideways. But I think that was just a byproduct of how defenses were setting up. And if you don't have players that can shoot from tight angles, or you might be forced out into those areas, and sure, they were just playing smart football, like not taking shots from stupid angles, you know what I mean? And watching games myself on TV, like I would be frustrated. I would turn games off when I'd see teams doing it, you know what I mean? Um, so no, it didn't really hurt. I just, it was probably just as I
It's
said.
the way you had to play back then,
It
really.
was the way we were being forced to play because of the
Yeah,
way the opposition set up. And everyone was setting up like that. And that's why teams were going that way. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But we see,
Well,
I've always said this, you see, since Dublin won their first All Ireland um, of their dynasty, say, every year you'd have Dublin, Kerry, Dublin, Mayo, and like we just had to go through the whole summer to watch these teams that had no kind of what's the word, will to play expansive football until we got to the last four. And like some of the best finals we've ever seen were actually in that era of defensive football. But only two or three teams were playing that way. And the cream will always rise to the top. You know what I mean?
mm,
And I think it actually took um Jim Gavin and the committee and the rule change to kind of force teams to go back playing the way that they should have been playing because I don't think I ever saw a successful like defensive team in that area, especially the top level, and even Corofin they're talking about that era as well. They were winning 6 out of 7 or 7 out of 8 or whatever, like, and sure they were not even thinking about playing like that. You know what I mean? They'd wing backs kicking balls, cornerbacks scoring. The expansive football always won out at the end of the day. So I think we wasted a lot of time having to go through that, but I think we had to go through that period to get where we are now.
yeah, it definitely does feel like a better game. Just a couple of quick fire questions for you, Frankie, before we
Mm.
finished.
Tell me about this. Press pause there for a minute.
Your toughest opponent,
Oh, I would say Declan Meehan
Declan Meehan, yeah.
because he was around when there was no sweeper and he just cleaned you out of it. And he was lightning quick. So you never get him for speed, but he was as strong as an ox, even though he was barely taller than myself. So definitely Declan Meehan. Never had to call for a sweeper. Never had to call for help when there was a turnover.
Your best day on a football pitch?
Um, that's a tough one. It would have to be the 2017 or 18 Connacht final. So when myself, Damo, Owen, and Kieran were all on the panel for Galway that day, definitely I'd say it would have to be that. I hope I'm
Be
not leaving out anything there now.
uh, Best manager you worked under?
Oh, geez, it's been a lot. Um, you put me on the spot there. I suppose I don't know. I can't pick one.
Hmm.
They all had different strengths, Like even Norman there is an unbelievable man manager. Um, I had Norman the last 2 years ran it down. Like Kevin Walsh he had a great setup in there, and I was like when I came in, I was shocked. Not shocked, but like was really surprised at the togetherness of the panel. Like he really tight. Um, a tight bunch there. Like they were really, really playing for him. He was very good. Um, I suppose those two, but
Hmm.
you put me on the spot there.
Best player you played with?
Um, well, geez, I suppose what do you do? How do you define playing with? Suppose if you go briefly, would have played with um Pádraig Joyce, Jeff Allen, Declan Meehan. Um, when I first started out playing for Galway, Michael Newell with Annaghdown was unbelievable full forward. I unfortunately got a bad cruciate injury just after I came on the scene, but he was class. My cousin Damien Burke, really, really intelligent footballer. Um, very, very like without him, I wouldn't have scored half as much at the start because he literally find you anywhere in the pitch. Um, then you obviously got Damo, like just he's a
Hmm.
machine. So I suppose longevity wise would have to be Damo, I suppose. But as I said briefly, Bora Joyce was pretty good too.
And for you personally, then, Frankie, who's the most underrated player for you?
In what sense? For
Just throughout your football career, someone that you felt
oh,
was underrated that never got the credit they deserved.
good question. I suppose I don't know. I suppose I mentioned him there already. Damien Burke, Annaghdown. He was so smart, like class footballer, like good pedigree. Played Galway minor 2 years, won an All Ireland with Galway in the 21s. Not that he was, I suppose he wasn't underrated. Like he was man of the match for Annaghdown, the 2001 county final. But um, I suppose he didn't get. I think he tore his hamstring in 2002 or three in Boston, and I suppose he didn't get a run with Galway then again after that. But he was really, really clever footballer, very skillful. Um, and we had a great relationship on the pitch. Like we're very friendly off it, as I said, we're cousins. So, but he was a really, really good playmaker. So I suppose Damien.
And then just finally for yourself, what was the most underrated skill on the pitch, do you think?
Um, that's another good question. I suppose I don't know is it a skill, but in this day and age, the ability to take someone on, especially as a forward, because I think a lot of the younger players now they've grown up watching this kind of or probably their developmental years were watching sideways football, and it's not as prevalent in the game now. But I suppose tactics and statistics are, and they're playing within those constraints, and just sometimes the ability to just run at someone or just sidestep or drop the shoulder and just paint a different picture to the defense and make them kind of scramble. I would say I'd see big value in that now, and you'd see a lot less of it these days.
Great stuff, Frankie. Well, thanks very much for your time and congrats again on a great career in Annaghdown.
No bother, Paul. Thanks very much.